Hi, I'm Lavana. I used to think being the dependable daughter meant they'd protect what I built. But one morning, I came home and found out my parents sold my $8,000 work car without telling me, just so my sister could take a vacation. That betrayal? It wasn't the first, and it definitely wasn't the worst. They made decisions behind closed doors, drained my finances, and still called it family. So I moved out. But what I did next? The sun had already started dipping behind the Sacramento skyline when I pulled off the freeway. The traffic had been a mess, nothing new, but for once I didn't mind the slow crawl. It gave me time to breathe, to appreciate the quiet hum of the engine beneath me. My car wasn't just a machine, it was the first thing I'd ever bought completely on my own. No cosigner, no handout. Every monthly payment chipped away with freelance income and side hustles, marketing gigs, design projects, even a few grueling months doing rideshare just to scrape together enough for the down payment. That night, I was coming back from a client meeting in Midtown. It had gone well. We'd finalized a retainer deal, something stable for the next 3 months. That was huge for someone like me who worked without a net. I remember tapping the steering wheel lightly, feeling proud. That car had taken me everywhere: conferences, client pitches, late-night drives to clear my head when everything else felt like too much. But the moment I turned onto our street, a prickle of something odd crawled down my spine. The driveway was empty. I blinked, pulled forward slowly, stopped right where I always did. Maybe someone had moved it? Maybe Dad needed to shift things around in the garage? But when I walked up the steps and opened the front door, the smell of chamomile tea drifted toward me, familiar, almost comforting, until I turned the corner into the kitchen. There they were, Mom and Dad, sitting at the table like it was any other evening. Mom was flipping through some magazine, sipping tea like she was in a spa commercial. Dad had the TV on low volume, eyes barely registering me. "Where's my car?" I asked, not even bothering to say hello. Mom didn't even look up. "We sold it." It took me a full second to register the words. "You what?" She finally met my eyes, as calm as ever. "Your sister's been stressed, honey. She needed a break. That retreat in Arizona is supposed to help with her anxiety." I could feel my stomach bottom out. "That car was mine, paid off, in my name. I need it for work. You knew that." "You work from home most days," she said, waving her hand. "Besides, Aylin needed it more. You're strong. You'll manage." I stood there frozen. It wasn't the first time they'd dismissed what I needed, but this wasn't just a dismissal. This was theft, and they were sipping tea over it. "Did she ask for this?" My voice cracked. "She's been overwhelmed," Mom said, like that explained everything. "She's your sister. Family means helping each other." "Helping?" I whispered. "You think helping means robbing me blind?" Dad hadn't said a word. He shifted slightly, pretending to focus on the muted news broadcast, his body language screaming, "I don't want to deal with this." "You didn't even tell me," I said. "Not even a call. You just took it." Mom raised an eyebrow, like I was the irrational one. "We didn't think you'd understand." "No," I said, swallowing the lump forming in my throat. "You knew I'd be furious. That's why you didn't say anything." She placed her mug down, sighing like I'd ruined her evening. "You're being dramatic again." I turned to Dad. "You have nothing to say?" He didn't look at me, just shrugged. "It was your mom's decision." That was a lie, and we all knew it. Decisions like this, they always made them together, always behind closed doors, always framed as what's best for the family. I went to my room in silence, no door slamming, no yelling, just cold. Standing at the window, I stared out at the empty driveway. My fingers curled into fists. That car represented everything I'd built. All the nights I skipped dinner to hit a deadline. All the clients I drove out to meet because I didn't have the luxury of letting them come to me. It was more than metal and wheels. It was proof that I could do something for myself. That I wasn't just the afterthought youngest daughter in a house that never saw me as more than the helper. They didn't just sell my car. They sold every mile I drove to get away from this house. They sold every hour I worked to be something outside of the other daughter. And they didn't even flinch. I wanted to scream. Instead, I just stood there, breathing through my nose, remembering every little sacrifice I'd made to pay that car off early, the side gigs, the canceled dates, the sleepless nights. But most of all, I remembered how I'd smiled the day I got the pink slip in the mail. Finally mine. No strings attached. Now it was gone. And with it, the last bit of trust I had in them. The house had gone quiet hours ago, but I was still awake, lying in bed, fully clothed, unable to turn off the racing in my chest. I hadn't spoken a word to them since dinner. Not that they noticed. They'd gone about their evening like nothing had happened. The TV had buzzed low in the living room, some generic crime show humming, while Mom loaded the dishwasher like she hadn't just sold my independence for someone else's vacation. Around midnight, I got up. I wasn't sleepy, just restless. I padded down the hall barefoot, thinking I might grab a glass of water and head back to bed. But as I passed the kitchen, I heard it. Their voices. She'll understand. She always does. It was Mom. Calm, collected, just like earlier. There was a pause, and then Dad's voice, low but clear. She always gets over it. Lavana's used to adjusting. I froze behind the hallway wall, the hardwood cold beneath my feet. They were still talking about me. Not with me. Not to me. Just around me. Like I was some abstract inconvenience they'd solved by rearranging furniture. I mean, come on, Mom added. We've all made sacrifices. The words didn't sting the way I expected. They sank in slowly, like cold water soaking into the fabric of something you can't quite wring dry. This wasn't about a car anymore. This was about being erased from my own family's narrative, rewritten into the role of the reliable one, the manageable daughter. I didn't go in. I just turned around, walked back to my room, and shut the door without a sound. A few minutes later, my phone buzzed. Aylin. They meant well. You always take things too personally. No greeting, no apology. Just that. I stared at the screen like it had slapped me. My thumb hovered over the keyboard, ready to respond with all the things I wanted to say. About how they'd stripped me of dignity, of control, of voice. About how meant well didn't patch holes torn open by betrayal. Instead, I typed one word. Noted. And then I turned off the phone. There was no point explaining myself to someone who had never once tried to understand. The room was dim, lit only by the streetlight outside, leaking through the blinds. My nightstand felt too empty without my car keys on it. That tiny clink I used to hear every night when I tossed them there was gone. It was stupid how loud their absence felt. I sat back down on the bed and leaned against the wall. My eyes wandered toward the ceiling, but what I really saw were moments. Not big ones. Just quiet memories. The time we took a family photo, and I was the only one not told about it. I saw it later on Aylin's feed. Her in a dress, Mom and Dad on either side, all smiling. No caption, just likes and hearts. The summer I stayed home to clean the house, while Aylin recharged after college finals. They said it was only fair. She had more on her plate. I was just freelancing. The Thanksgiving, I tried to bring up a work win at the table, and Mom cut in with, "Let's not make this all about career stuff, honey." It wasn't the big things. It was the pattern. Always being the one expected to bend, to carry the silence, to understand. A notification buzzed again. This time it was Calder. "You want to talk?" I started to type something. "It's fine." Backspace. "Not now." Send. I couldn't explain this kind of hollow to someone who'd never been quietly chipped away by people who swore they loved you. I curled onto my side, pulling the blanket up but leaving my feet bare. That was the part of me that still needed to feel the ground, needed to remember this was real. Out there, in the same house, they were probably sleeping soundly, believing they'd made the right choice, telling themselves they'd handled it as a family. No raised voices, no open fights, just quiet decisions made in closed rooms I was never invited into. And that was what hurt the most. Not what they said, but what they didn't. By the time the sun started bleeding through the blinds, I still hadn't slept. My body was exhausted, But my mind wouldn't shut up. Every time I closed my eyes, I could still hear my mother's voice saying I'd get over it. I didn't want to get over it. I had a virtual pitch scheduled at 10. It wasn't just another client, it was the one. A corporate wellness firm that had reached out after seeing my analytics breakdowns on LinkedIn. I'd been hustling for weeks, tailoring the proposal, building sample dashboards, and today was the meeting. Except this client wasn't like most. The CEO insisted on signing all NDAs in person. Security protocol, he said. It's how we work. He suggested we meet at a co-working space downtown, a place I used often, until my car was sold out from under me. Still, I got dressed. Slacks, navy blouse, pulled back hair. I wanted to feel like myself, even if I had no way to get there. I opened my rideshare app. Surge pricing, no cars nearby. Tried another, nothing. Called Calder. No answer. I tried 2 other friends. Voicemail. I texted one neighbor, but they were at work, and it felt humiliating explaining why I suddenly had no vehicle. My laptop screen glowed with the time. 9:38. I was supposed to be there at 10. I checked the bus schedule. Nothing that would get me there in time. By 9:52, I was sitting at the kitchen table in full work attire, staring at my phone like it might teleport me downtown. The digital clock flipped to 10:01. I closed the laptop and just sat there. That wasn't just a gig lost. It was stability, validation, something I'd fought to earn outside this house. And it was gone because someone else needed a vacation. Later that evening, I sat across from them at dinner. Aylin was scrolling through her phone between bites of roasted chicken. Dad buttered a roll without looking at anyone. Mom passed the green beans like this was any other Tuesday. I waited for a moment of silence, then said, I lost the contract today. No one paused. I added, because I didn't have a car. You know, the one you sold? Mom didn't even blink. Lavana, don't start. I'm not starting anything, You think we had it easy? She snapped, setting her fork down with a clink. Your father and I gave up everything for you girls. We didn't get to chase clients around or play entrepreneur. We worked real jobs. Dad muttered, Your mom's right. I opened my mouth, but Mom continued, So one meeting didn't work out. You're still breathing, aren't you? It's not the end of the world. Aylin giggled at something on her screen and mumbled, Drama queen. I stared at the tablecloth, fingers curled around my fork so tightly I thought it might snap. I wanted to yell. I wanted to shake the truth into them, that my work was real, that every gig paid for a bill they didn't even know existed. But I didn't. I pushed my plate back, stood up, and walked to my room without a word. Hours passed. The house dimmed again. I pulled out my laptop, rereading the email. Unfortunately, we've decided to move forward with another candidate. The words blurred. In the corner, my office still sat. A folding table near the fridge, a chair I bought from a garage sale. I used to feel proud of that space, scrappy, built from nothing. But now, it felt like a mockery. I used to tell myself setbacks were just detours, but maybe this wasn't a detour. Maybe I was just easy to ignore, easy to replace, even by my own family. My phone buzzed. Calder. Still thinking about what you told me. Want help with a plan? I stared at the message for a long time, then looked out the window. The street lamp flickered against the garage where my car used to be. I whispered to the dark, maybe I do need a plan. I opened the Notes app on my phone and typed out a title. What I pay for that no one notices. Wi-Fi cleaning supplies, shared Netflix Prime account. Aylin uses gas bill. When I had a car. Groceries, 90% of them. Then I opened a drawer, pulled out an old envelope full of receipts, and started sorting. I wasn't going to shout or plead. I was done being the understanding one. They thought I'd just take it like I always had. They were about to meet a version of me they didn't create. Once I had everything spread out across my bed. Receipts, statements, lists. I realized I wasn't even sure what I was looking for anymore. Maybe I just needed proof that I wasn't crazy, that what I felt was real. Aylin had been posting pictures all week, lounging on some cabana in Palm Springs, holding a margarita with a paper umbrella. Her captions were typical: self-care, deserved this, blessed. But the timing didn't sit right. I reached for my laptop, logged into my bank. I hadn't checked my statements in detail for months. I usually scanned for irregular charges and paid the bill. But now I was combing line by line. And there it was. Hotel Palm Oasis. $612.89, JetBlue Airlines. $378.55 Uber. $74.90, room service. $103.10, all within the past 10 days. All lining up with Aylin's trip. My hands stiffened on the trackpad. I scrolled faster. A charge from Sephora. Aylin had posted a haul video the day before she left. Another from a boutique spa that tagged her in an Instagram story. I knew I hadn't used the card. I'd been too busy trying to keep my freelance business alive. The final straw came when I checked the cardholder name. LaVonna Monroe. My name. But I hadn't made those purchases. I sat still for a moment, breathing through clenched teeth. Then I printed the statement, folded it in half, and slid it into an envelope. Downstairs, Larissa was at the dining table, clipping the dead leaves from a houseplant. Aylin was in the corner chair, one foot propped up, lazily painting her toenails. I stepped in. Neither looked up. I placed the envelope on the table and opened it wide. "Can one of you explain these charges?" Larissa looked at the papers. "What's this about? Palm Springs, JetBlue, Sephora, all on my card." Aylin rolled her eyes. "Seriously? You're making a scene about that?" "Did either of you ask me?" I asked, voice steady but low. "Did anyone think maybe I needed that money for, I don't know, my actual life?" Larissa stood up, wiping her hands on a dish towel. "You weren't using the card. It's been sitting idle for months. So you figured what? That meant it was fair game?" "We're a family," she said flatly. "Sometimes things are shared. You wouldn't even have that credit line if it weren't for us helping you build it." Aylin huffed. "It's not like it's a crime, LaVonna. Chill. We're not stealing from strangers." I looked at both of them. "You stole from me." Larissa's eyes narrowed. "You live under this roof. We keep the lights on, don't we? We've sacrificed for you." "No," I said, quieter now. "You sacrificed me." They stood there, almost bored, like I was the unreasonable one, the drama queen again. I took a breath. "I want the card removed from all your devices, and I want reimbursement." Aylin laughed. "Get over yourself." "I'm not asking," I said, turning on my heel before my voice could betray the heat crawling up my neck. I climbed the stairs 2 at a time, slammed my bedroom door shut, and dropped the envelope on my desk. I felt like something had cracked open inside me, not shattered, but split, the way old wood does before it finally gives. The worst part wasn't the theft. It was that they didn't see it as theft. To them, my boundaries were optional, my consent, a formality. That night, I didn't sleep. Instead, I emptied my drawers, pulled out every important document I had: contracts, invoices, passwords. I took my backup drive from under the bed and locked everything in a small fireproof box. Then I logged into my bank account, removed every auto payment linked to this address, switched passwords, signed up for identity theft protection. As I worked, I made a list, not of what I'd lost, but of what I was reclaiming. They thought they knew me, that I was just the helper, the stable one, the daughter who never fought back. But they didn't know this version of me, not the one who was done apologizing for taking up space, not the one who would draw a line in permanent ink and dare them to cross it. By the end of the week, my room looked like the front end of a clearance sale. Stacks of folded clothes, zippered bags, a box labeled tools, holding nothing more than my battered laptop and a few backup drives. The essentials. The things I didn't trust in anyone else's hands anymore. I had just zipped up the last suitcase when my phone lit up with a voicemail notification. I didn't answer when it rang. I had stopped answering Larissa's calls days ago. But something made me listen this time. Her voice came through the speaker like it was standing in the middle of my chest. "I didn't mean for it to go that far," she said. "Let's not drag this out, sweetie. You always take things too seriously. Come home. Let's be reasonable." Not sorry, not even close. Then, just minutes after the voicemail, a text pinged from my cousin Jenna. "Hey, just checking in. Your mom said you've been acting off lately. Is everything okay?" So that was it. Larissa was covering her tracks. If I snapped, she could point to her concerned texts, her careful image, her pitying tone. That's not guilt. That's damage control. I didn't respond to either of them. Instead, I walked into the closet, pulled out an old duffel bag from college, and started rolling clothes into tight cylinders. Not because I needed more space, because I needed focus. I needed motion. At midnight, the house had gone still. Virgil had turned off the living room lights. Aylin's door was shut, and from under it, I saw the pulsing light of her TV. I moved in silence, as I had always done, like a guest in a home I helped pay for. Only now, every step was deliberate. I wrapped cords, bagged toiletries, packed chargers, and stacked folders inside my backpack. Then I took one last look around. The walls were still covered in faded wallpaper from the late 90s. The same patch where I once taped up a college acceptance letter that nobody came to read. The same dresser drawer where I kept birthday cards from years when no one remembered. I texted Calder. "Dropping stuff off early. We'll explain soon." He replied instantly. "Keys under the blue planter." I slept for 2 hours, maybe less. By 5 a.m., I was loading everything into the back seat of my Corolla, well, the car I used to own. Now I was borrowing Calder's hatchback. He'd left it in the driveway, filled with gas. I walked back into the kitchen. My sneakers didn't even make a sound on the tile. I laid the keys on the counter, took out a small notepad, tore a single sheet. "You've made your choices. Now I'm making mine. I'm leaving so I don't lose myself." I didn't leave a signature, just folded the note once, placed it by the fruit bowl, and walked out without a backward glance. I didn't cry. Not when I pulled out of the driveway. Not when I passed the rusted neighborhood stop sign. Not even when the street where I grew up faded in the rearview mirror. It wasn't sorrow anymore. It was clarity. By 7, I was at Calder's. I let myself in, dropped my bags by the door, and collapsed onto the couch. I stayed there for a while, staring at nothing, letting the absence of noise settle around me like a blanket. I only unpacked the bare minimum, one set of sheets, my laptop, and a few toiletries. The rest stayed in boxes against the wall, stacked like sandbags around the part of myself still trying to catch up. That night, for the first time in weeks, I slept straight through. No tossing, no turning, just breath. Heavy, undisturbed. The next morning, Calder made coffee and didn't ask questions. I didn't offer details. We sat on his small balcony, facing the rising sun over Sacramento's skyline. I wrapped my hands around the mug, steam curling against my face. "I don't know where I'm going yet," I said softly, eyes scanning rooftops, "but I know it's not back there." He nodded like he already understood. The funny thing was, there was no big blowout, no screaming match, no slamming of doors. I didn't burn the bridge. I just stopped pretending it led anywhere. The morning after I moved in with Calder, I found myself at his kitchen table, half dressed in a borrowed hoodie, staring at my laptop with more focus than I'd had in weeks. The coffee he made was lukewarm, untouched. I wasn't hungry. I wasn't tired. I was calculated. I opened my Dropbox, searching through folders I hadn't looked at since I first bought the car. Receipts, title, insurance scans. Then, buried inside a folder labeled Adulting Stuff, there it was, vehicle registration. I clicked it open, and there it sat. My full legal name in all caps. No cosigner, no secondary owner, just me. My heart didn't race. My breath didn't catch. What I felt wasn't surprise. It was confirmation. They'd sold something they had no right to touch. Just to be sure, I called the DMV. After 20 minutes on hold, a tired-sounding woman picked up. "Yes, ma'am. The car was registered to you solely. Looks like it was transferred through a private bill of sale 3 weeks ago." I closed my eyes. "Was that legal?" "Not without your signature. You didn't sign off on that. No, I didn't. She paused. Then technically, yes, it's a fraudulent transfer. That's all I needed to hear. I hung up, leaned back in the chair, and let the ceiling blur. There were no screaming voices, no angry rebuttals, just a bitter taste in my mouth that wouldn't go away. I opened a second tab, Instagram. Aylin's page was public, of course. She never really grasped the concept of privacy. It didn't take long to line up the puzzle. Bikini selfie with cocktail? Timestamped 2 days before they claimed they were helping her escape stress. Boomerang at the airport with her boyfriend? A week before the car sale. Hotel tagged in Palm Springs. Same day my credit card was hit with a family emergency expense. They didn't just lie. They planned it, scripted it, executed it while I was working late, while I was picking up groceries, while I was letting them borrow my Prime account to save money on shipping. I clicked back to my own bank records. I matched dates, charges, merchant codes. It lined up like a confession on paper. By noon, I had a folder titled Car Theft Evidence. Inside it, I dropped in PDF copies of every document I could find, emails with the dealership, scans of the DMV record, tax receipts, credit card charges, messages from Larissa asking for help with utilities. Then, in the notes section of the folder, I typed, "If anything happens to me, this folder goes public." I stared at those words for a long time before hitting save. Around 3 p.m., Calder came back from work early and leaned against the kitchen counter. "You building a case?" "Not officially," I said, closing the lid on my laptop. "Not yet. But you're ready." I nodded. "They need to know I'm not bluffing anymore." That night, I opened a blank Word doc. At the top I typed, "To Larissa and Virgil." Underneath it, I wrote plainly, directly, no emotion, no pleading, just facts. The vehicle you sold was legally under my name. I've attached the registration copy, along with relevant bank statements. I know what you did. Next time you want to steal from me, read the fine print. No signature, no warmth, just data. I printed it out, folded it once, and tucked it into an envelope. I wasn't going to mail it. Not yet. But I wanted it ready. I placed it on top of the fireproof box under my bed, beside the locked folder and a printed list of passwords I'd changed. For the first time, I felt taller in my own skin, not because I was yelling, not because I was trying to convince them I mattered, but because I didn't need their recognition anymore. I had proof. The envelope stayed on my nightstand for 3 days. I didn't touch it, didn't reread it. Just the sight of it was enough. I'd made my statement. Whether they ever opened it didn't matter. It existed, and it was real. Unlike most of the words that came out of their mouths. By Thursday, I was back at work, sitting through a morning briefing in a windowless conference room that smelled like burnt coffee and old carpet glue. The usual agenda, marketing projections, next quarter's KPIs, buzzed in the background. I tried to focus, tapping my pen absently on the edge of my notepad. Then Mike, the guy who always thought he was the funniest person in the room, raised his voice just enough to be heard over a colleague's presentation. "Hey, just don't cross Lavana," he said with a smirk. "She might lawyer up, like she did with her parents." There was a beat of silence, not shock, amusement, then a few chuckles. I didn't move, didn't blink, just stared down at the pie chart on the screen like it mattered. Inside, though, I could feel the blood rise to my face, heat crawling up my neck like someone had pulled off a mask I didn't know I was wearing. So it was out, somewhere between my mother's calls, my sister's barbed texts, and our shared circles. The drama had bled into my professional life. On lunch break, I didn't eat. I sat on a bench near the parking lot, phone in hand, heart pounding. I wasn't embarrassed. I was exposed. Calder texted me just before 3 p.m. "You need to hear this." I didn't mean to record it, but I couldn't ignore it either. There was an audio file attached. I plugged in my earbuds, pressed play. Aylin's voice filtered through, sharp and lazy at once, like someone who'd never had to try hard to be heard. I didn't make them sell her car. I just reminded them how dramatic she gets. They jumped on it. Lavana's not the confrontational type anyway. A few people laughed in the background. Someone said, "Well, she didn't fight you, did she?" Aylin replied, chuckling, "She never does. That's what makes it easy." I replayed the file. Once, twice, the third time I listened in complete stillness. That wasn't hurt in my chest anymore. It was clarity hardening into resolve. I opened my evidence folder and dropped the file in. Renamed it Aylin_confession_dinner.m4a. But I didn't stop there. I logged into my old Instagram. Posted a plain black image. No caption. Just the words in white font. You can paint someone as weak. Just be sure they don't learn how to frame the picture. I logged out. That was enough. The right people would see it, the ones who mattered, and the ones who'd feel it sting. Less than an hour later, Larissa's name lit up my phone. I watched it ring. Decline. Then came a text from Aylin. What the hell are you trying to do? Delete. I didn't answer either. I just opened a new folder on my hard drive. Named it Public-Facing File If They Push. I uploaded the audio, the letter, the registration document, screenshots of the text messages, photos of the receipts. That night, I sat on Calder's balcony again, watching the wind mess with the trees. He brought me tea but didn't ask what I was doing. He didn't need to. I didn't feel proud. I didn't feel victorious. I just felt ready. They wanted silence, wanted me to be the accommodating one, the one who let things go because family means forgiveness. But what they never considered was that maybe silence can be louder than a scream, and I was finally using mine. The next morning, a package showed up on Calder's doorstep. No return label, but I recognized the handwriting immediately. Aylin's. It was the kind of neat, almost theatrical script that screamed, "Look how harmless I am." Inside was the birthday scarf I'd mailed her just 2 weeks ago, wrapped neatly in the original tissue paper. Still folded, still untouched. On top sat a card. Not the kind you buy from the store, but a ripped piece of notebook paper, torn crooked, like it had been done in a hurry, but still meant to sting. Didn't want it. You should have spent the money on therapy. I didn't blink, didn't let Calder see it. I walked into the kitchen, slid the note into the shredder, and listened as the blades turned her smugness into strips. Then I opened my laptop. I already had the document saved. Everything was drafted, organized, and labeled. It was just time to print. Demand for compensation. Unauthorized sale of registered vehicle, illicit use of personal financial accounts. Emotional distress directly resulting from familial negligence and manipulation. I signed my name at the bottom, sharp, clean, and folded the letter into thirds. I placed it inside a manila envelope and drove it to the post office myself. Certified mail, return receipt requested. I didn't flinch when I handed it over. Just looked the clerk in the eye and said, "It's time they took me seriously." By evening, the ripple started. First was a voicemail from Larissa. Her voice cracked a little at the edges, but it wasn't remorse. It was performance. "You're tearing this family apart, Lavana, after everything we've done for you. Is this really necessary?" I didn't bother listening to the whole thing. I deleted it before she reached the fake tears. Then came the social media fallout. Aylin posted a black and white photo of her at some cafe with a quote underneath. "The ones who scream the loudest are often the guiltiest." Right, because returning a gift with a personal attack wasn't screaming, because taking someone's property and justifying it with, "You're too sensitive," was love. My cousin Kayla messaged me on Facebook. "Your mom's really upset. Maybe you should just let things cool off." Cool off. That was always the way they wrapped abuse in gift paper. Don't escalate. Don't talk back. Just let the fire die down while your house burns. I didn't respond to Kayla, or Aylin, or Larissa. I didn't explain myself anymore. Calder watched me close my laptop after archiving the latest batch of messages. "You okay?" he asked. "I will be," I replied. "It's strange. You grow up thinking the worst thing you can do is disappoint your family, but sometimes the worst thing is giving them the power to keep disappointing you." He didn't say anything, just sat beside me, steady as always. That Sunday, I went for a walk alone along the boardwalk by the river. The air was cool, the water quiet except for the occasional ripple from a boat passing in the distance. I paused by the railing, staring out across the current. This was the first time in years I didn't feel like I owed anyone an apology for existing. I opened my phone. There were 3 voicemails waiting, 1 from Larissa, 2 from my aunt. I deleted them without listening. Then I opened my gallery and scrolled through an old photo, Me at age 16, holding the keys to my first used car, smiling like the whole world was just beginning. I whispered, "You didn't deserve what came after, but you made it anyway." Back at Calder's, I put on some music, poured a glass of water, and cleaned out my inbox. No fanfare, no press release, just quiet, deliberate closure. No more trying to patch holes in something that was never whole. No more carrying guilt that wasn't mine to begin with. And definitely no more pretending. They'd made their choices. Now I'd made mine. The first time I went out in public without that invisible weight pressing down on my spine, it was to the cafe 2 blocks from Calder's place. I wasn't expecting anything. Just coffee. A quiet hour with my notebook and the low hum of strangers' conversations. But before I could pull my pen from my bag, a woman I barely knew from my old neighborhood, Mrs. Merton, always in a visor and white sneakers, stopped at my table. "I heard," she said gently, "about your folks, what they did. You're brave, honey. Most people just stay and suffer." I nodded, unsure what to say. "Thank you," was all I managed. She smiled, then walked away like she hadn't dropped a boulder in my lap. It wasn't judgment, it wasn't gossip, it was recognition. And it echoed louder than anything Larissa or Virgil had ever offered me. Later that week, someone else stopped me near the mailbox outside Calder's apartment. "You're Lavana, right?" the young woman asked. "Did you really sue your parents?" I took a slow breath and answered calmly, "I'm just protecting what's mine, that's all." I didn't explain the car, or the card fraud, or the note Aylin sent with my birthday gift, folded in bitterness. People didn't need all that. They just needed the truth in its simplest form. I stopped letting them take from me. By the following weekend, the fallout had spread, not like wildfire, more like slow fog. I wasn't checking in, but word got back to me anyway. A cousin messaged me. "They're not doing well, but maybe they need to sit with that." Virgil, I heard, had stopped showing up at his Saturday morning golf games. Larissa was defensive at church, according to Kayla's mom. And Aylin? She posted another quote on Instagram over a picture of her fake laughing with a glass of wine. "When the weakest leave, the strong suffer the burden." Cute. I scrolled past it, felt the flicker of annoyance, and then nothing. Not rage, not hurt, just absence. Like watching a rerun of a show that used to matter to you, until you realized you'd outgrown it. Back at the apartment, Calder was fiddling with audio levels on his computer. I leaned against the doorway. "I think I want to record something," I said. He turned. "Your story?" "Parts of it, not everything, but enough." And so I started. Not a memoir, not a takedown. Just 10-minute voice logs I uploaded under a pseudonym to a simple site Calder helped me build. We named it The Unseen Daughter. It felt right, like telling the story from the corner of a room no one ever noticed. The feedback came slowly, a few comments, then a few more. One woman wrote, "Thank you, I thought it was just me." Another said, "You gave words to something I never knew how to name." I didn't post every week. Some days I just opened my recorder and sat with silence, and sometimes that was enough. One afternoon I walked by the old house. Not intentionally, I'd taken a different route back from a bookstore, and there it was. Same shutters, same chipped paint near the garage. The yard was overgrown. I paused across the street. Not to stare, just to acknowledge. I didn't feel the tug to go up to the door. Didn't fantasize about yelling, or forgiving, or even closure. I just stood there, hands in my jacket pockets, and thought, "You are not my home. You never were." And then I walked on. Back at my new place, I brewed tea, sat by the window while the rain started. Gentle, not dramatic, just the kind of drizzle that makes the street shimmer. I cupped my hands around the mug, took a slow sip, and breathed. Not the tight, desperate inhale of someone trying to keep it together, but the kind that comes after. After the storm, after the fight, after the need to prove anything. Just breath, just me. Looking back, I didn't just walk away from a toxic home. I walked into a life I chose on my own terms. If there's one thing I've learned, it's this. Sometimes, love isn't enough to make things right. You can forgive someone quietly, but still protect yourself loudly. To anyone watching who's ever been made to feel small, unheard, or like their boundaries were too much, you are not too much. You were just in a room that couldn't hold your strength. Don't wait for permission to live freely. Don't wait for someone to validate your pain before you start healing. You deserve peace now, not after they change, not after they apologize. And maybe you've been there. Maybe you're still there. But if my story resonates with you, I hope it reminds you that you are allowed to reclaim what was always yours: your voice, your dignity, your future. Now, I'd love to hear from you. Have you ever had to walk away from someone who refused to see your worth? What did that moment feel like for you? Drop a comment below. If this story touched your heart, comment 1, or let me know where in the world you're watching from. And if it didn't sit right with you, tell me why. I want to hear your truth too. And hey, if you found value in this video, don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next story. Because I promise you, there are more voices waiting to be heard, and yours might be one of them. Thanks for spending your time here with me today. I'll see you in the next chapter.
Mom, I'm sorry. I've been thinking I might need to drop out of college. I just can't afford it anymore. What do you mean? Shouldn't you be able to get by with $3,000 a month? Isn't what I send you enough? Wait, Mom, you've never sent me anything, have you? Her shocking words hit me like a punch. I was sure I'd been sending her money every month. There was only one explanation for this. Anger started to boil up within me. My name is Beatrix. I lost my husband early and have been raising my daughter Anita all by myself. Our life together has always been a stretch. I never had time or money to worry about my appearance. Did I look so miserable? Occasionally, my mother-in-law would look at me with disdain. Beatrix, can't you at least try to improve your stuff a little? Your hair, your clothes, you look, well, a bit shabby. I'm sorry, I'll try to do better. It hurt to be criticized, but she was right. I had no choice but to accept her words. I never let myself get angry or snap back at her. In the spring of a certain year, my daughter Anita was accepted to her dream college. It was a far commute from home, so she decided to live on her own. Anita, I'll do my best to send you money, so you have to do your best to study. Don't push yourself too hard. Remember, your health comes first. Mom, that's my line. I'll work part-time too. Don't worry about sending you money. Her thoughtful words filled my heart. Anita had grown up to be such a kind child, even though our life had been tough compared to her friends and other families. I wanted to support Anita and make her college life as fulfilling as possible. I didn't want her to worry about money, so I worked harder than ever before. $3,000 a month, that was my goal. If I could send her that much, she wouldn't have to work a part-time job. My mother-in-law noticed my efforts and spoke to me. So you're sending money to Anita. Can you really afford it? I hope it doesn't mean less for us. You know we rely on your support. I had always been grateful to my father-in-law when he was alive, and after his death, I continued to support my in-laws out of gratitude. Don't worry, I've taken on more jobs, so I'll still be able to give you your share. Oh, I see. That's fine then. After losing my husband, my income was unstable, and I guess my mother-in-law was worried. I understood her concern, so I never thought about reducing my contribution to my in-laws. Supporting my in-laws and sending money to Anita, it was more than $3,000 in total. Still, I managed to send it all, even if it meant cutting back on my own food and clothing expenses. Working all day and night was tough, but the messages from Anita always encouraged me. Mom, I've made friends. Mom, there's this weird professor, but the class is so interesting. Mom, I didn't do well in class today and got scolded, but I'll keep trying. Reading such innocent messages from Anita, I could sense she was enjoying her college life. Any exhaustion I felt just blew away. I felt proud of myself, believing that my hard work was for her happiness. But over time, messages from Anita became less and less frequent. A few months later, her cheerful messages had stopped completely. Whenever I reached out with worry, she would only respond with a short, "I'm okay." Could it be that she was having so much fun at college that she had forgotten about her mother? Or maybe she had found a boyfriend and was focusing only on him. One day, when I was brooding over such thoughts, suddenly my phone rang. It was Anita. "Hello, Anita. What's up? You called suddenly." It was unusual for her to call. Maybe it was because we always have face-to-face conversations at home. But Anita rarely called, even after she started living alone in college. Most of her contact with me was through text messages. Yeah, I'm sorry, Mom. What happened? Is there something wrong? Anita sounded down. I could tell something was wrong, so I focused on her voice coming from my smartphone. I ran out of money. I'm thinking maybe I should quit college. What? Anita's words were so unexpected that I couldn't help raising my voice. What do you mean you're out of money? I'm sorry. I tried my best. Anita's voice was trembling as if she was about to cry. I had been sending her $3,000 every month without fail. It wasn't enough for luxury, but she shouldn't be struggling to the point of having to quit college. She was also supposed to be working part-time. I never imagined that she would say she was out of money. Could she have gotten involved with some bad friends and skipped studying to spend all her money? I thought about it for a moment, then shook my head. That's not like Anita. Anita, it's okay. Take a deep breath and tell me what happened. Yeah, I was trying to make ends meet with rent, groceries, and what I made from my part-time job. I had to dip into my savings, and now that's all gone too. I'm sorry, Mom. I'm really sorry. Hold on a second. What about the money I send you every month? That should cover your rent and living expenses, right? No matter how I thought about it, the math didn't add up. If Anita was spending her salary and my remittances and even had to touch her savings, something was seriously wrong. But from her tone, she didn't seem to be lying. When I asked her, Anita seemed confused. Mom, you never sent me any money, did you? What did you just say? Anita's words were so shocking that I found myself shouting again. That's impossible. I've been sending you $3,000 every month. Did you check properly? Are you sure there's no money in your account? There's nothing. I've been keeping a close eye on my banking card. If you'd sent me that much money, I definitely would have noticed. The shock hit me like a punch to the head, making me feel dizzy. It was clear that Anita hadn't been receiving the money, and it was causing her a lot of trouble. You don't need to drop out of college. I'll send the money right away, so don't worry. Do you have something to eat today? Are you okay? You're not getting sick, are you? I'm fine. I switched to a job where I get meals, and my friends have been worried about me. They've been sharing some food with me. That's great. You have good friends. We need to thank them next time. But Mom, you're already having a hard time. I don't want you to struggle anymore because of me. So that's why you didn't tell me until the situation got this critical. Thank you. But listen, seeing you in such a difficult situation is much worse. So please leave the rest to me. With that, Anita finally let out her emotions and started crying. I wondered when was the last time I heard her cry like this. After comforting Anita and hanging up the phone, I immediately took action. Driven by growing anger, I decided to confront my mother-in-law, who lived nearby. Oh my, what's the matter, Beatrix? Showing up without a call? How rude. Never mind that. What have you been doing with the money I've been giving you each month? What? That money is for living expenses. As soon as I mentioned the money, I noticed my mother-in-law's face twitch for a moment. I'm talking about the money for Anita. I was giving that to you too, right? The remittance to Anita was not directly transferred by me into her account. I've been handing it directly to my mother-in-law, who offered to make the transfer herself when she learned it was for Anita. So I have been giving you an additional $3,000 for Anita's remittance. I would have declined if it was only about transferring the money, but there was a reason I didn't. That's because she said, I want to contribute to my granddaughter too. That's what you said, right? I trusted you and gave you the money, but what do you mean you didn't transfer it? My mother-in-law had convinced me with that. Even though she was getting money from me, I thought it was her kindness toward Anita and trusted her. What are you talking about? I've been transferring money to Anita's account every month. Yes, I have. Please stop lying so blatantly. Anita has told me that she never received any transfers. Oh my, for her to lie like that, what kind of child is she? Beatrix, maybe it's your parenting that's the problem. Excuse me? Hearing my own daughter being called a liar made me feel a rush of blood to my head. But if I lost my temper and forgot myself here, it would play right into her hands. I told myself to calm down, took a deep breath, and spoke again. Anita doesn't lie. If you insist on this, show me the bank statements where you made the transfers. I threw those away a long time ago. Listen, by checking Anita's account history, it's easy to see whether you really transferred the money or not. Even after knowing this, are you still going to call Anita a liar? Anyone could think of this, But when I said this, my mother-in-law seemed at a loss for words. She huffed again, muttering stubbornly under her breath. So persistent. I took a deep breath and said, "If you insist that you transferred the money, we should let the police investigate." "What? The police?" The mention of the police made her previously defiant face turn pale. "The police? Isn't that a bit dramatic?" "It's not. This is about money. You said you transferred it, but it didn't show up. That sounds like a crime to me. We need to get it properly investigated." I don't think we need to go that far." "Well, then I'll contact them now." "No, stop. I was wrong." As I pretended to call the police, she lunged to snatch the phone from my hands. She missed and stumbled, then fell down and started crying. I never expected the mere mention of the police to have such an effect. In reality, I wasn't sure if the police would do anything in a situation like this where it was obvious that a family member was involved. But the word police itself seemed to weigh heavily on her. Despite her sobbing, I felt nothing. Anita, who had tried so hard not to cry, was the one who had suffered. According to her subsequent confession, she had always loved shopping. She probably had a shopping addiction, although she didn't seem to realize it. She told me tearfully about how her husband had once cut up her credit cards and how difficult it was for her. As far as I can tell, it was entirely her own doing, but she didn't seem to understand that. I suspected something was off. My mother-in-law kept getting the same amount of money even after he passed away, but I started getting requests for money earlier than expected. That never happened when he was around because he never gave me any money. When I went grocery shopping, he would check all the receipts and I had to return every cent of the change. Can you believe that? It was awful. I felt so pitiful. I couldn't begin to understand what she thought was pitiful and didn't bother trying. In other words, when her husband was alive, he managed the household finances and kept her from having any extra money. When he was gone, I finally had some money. I started buying things I couldn't afford before, and well, I fell a little short. Then you mentioned sending money to Anita. So you took Anita's money. Do you realize that's theft? Theft? That sounds so awful. I was just borrowing it. Borrowing it with no intention of returning it? Anita suffered because of your selfishness. She's young. She can handle it. Caught off guard by her incomprehensible retort, I was at a loss for words. I've been deprived for so long. I couldn't buy anything I wanted, couldn't even go out to eat or travel. I had such a hard life. Young people can work and play as much as they want, so why shouldn't I kick some money? I stood there speechless, staring at my mother-in-law as she cried and screamed. All I could think was that I had trusted this person. My father-in-law had done me many favors, but now that I think about it, I can't recall my mother-in-law ever being kind to me. However, when Anita was still a little girl, my mother-in-law did buy her various things, so I thought she was expressing affection for Anita in her own way, and I was relieved. Looking back, I suspect all that shopping was just to satisfy her own desires. I failed to see that and caused Anita unnecessary suffering. Such a gentle child. I can never regret it enough. Mother-in-law, no, Evelyn. I intentionally called her by her first name. I didn't want to think of her as my mother, even if it was just in-law. I cannot forgive you. After that, I sought free legal advice and did everything I could to recover the money, but you can't take from a person who has nothing. However, I had a trump card. Before my father-in-law passed away, he left me a will giving me the rights to his property. At that time, I wondered why he left it to me, but now I guess he might have been worried about his wife's reckless behavior. Naturally, my mother-in-law demanded that I renounce the inheritance, but I firmly refused. I want to praise my past self for standing firm despite being severely criticized as a greedy daughter-in-law. No matter what they say, I felt that I couldn't disregard my father-in-law's feelings. I didn't know the reason or the circumstances, but maybe I felt something. So technically, the house and the land are mine, and my mother-in-law is just living there rent-free. I decided to sell the house. That meant the parasitic mother-in-law living there was in the way, so I contacted her parents. This contact information was secretly given to me by my father-in-law, just in case. I really admire his foresight. That's why it's such a shame he didn't have a good eye for women. I knew that my mother-in-law had always hated her own family, but the reason became clear when I contacted them. They were a traditional farming family with strong tendencies toward male chauvinism. A stranger like me called, and they listened with a suspicious attitude, but they gladly agreed to take in my mother-in-law. It seemed like they wanted free labor. The conversation progressed quickly, and one day, out of the blue, her family came to pick her up, an event that my mother-in-law couldn't have predicted. I'll never forget the color draining from her face when I took her brother, who came to pick her up, to her house. Now, my mother-in-law is doing tough farm work under strict supervision. She can't even go shopping at the supermarket, let alone squander money, and she seems to be living a life without touching money at all. Due to the stress, she seems to have aged quickly and is working every day as a wrinkled, frail, ghost-like figure with white hair. Looking at the recent bank statement of the money I just transferred to Anita, I smiled, thinking that if I saw her at night, I might scream. The house sold easily. It wasn't in a particularly good location, but once I decided I was okay with selling it for a low price, a buyer came forward immediately. The amount was enough to recoup the money wasted by my mother-in-law. I used that money without hesitation for my living expenses, and I sent Anita the money I earned from working. It's all money, but somehow the money I got from selling the house feels tainted, and I didn't like that. I've transferred this month's money just now. With that thought, I quickly texted Anita. Even if I hadn't transferred the money, as long as I had communicated that I had sent it to Anita, she wouldn't have discovered the mistake so late. I regret now for neglecting such simple communication due to my busy schedule. The reply came swiftly. Got it. The message, full of Anita's usual energy, was accompanied by a string of cute emojis. She checked so quickly. But these days, it seems you can easily check your bank balance on your mobile phone. I don't understand it at all, so I can only admire the adaptability of the young. Since then, Anita started sending messages frequently again. With the money reliably reaching her, her life must have become stable. It's clear from her texts that she's energetically continuing college without quitting. While I was feeling pleased, another message arrived from Anita. Looking at it, my eyes widened and I broke into a grin. Mom, there's someone I want you to meet. I didn't expect this day to come. It was all worth it. I can't sit around. I need to prepare something good. I changed my plan and headed to a high-end supermarket I don't usually go to. Since I no longer have to send money to my mother-in-law, there's a bit more wiggle room in my life. I've even been able to quit a few of the jobs I was juggling. I wonder what kind of food my daughter's partner likes. With a bit of premature speculation, I laughed. In the near future, I plan to invite the fresh-faced couple to our home and treat them with the best hospitality I can muster. Dad said those words during Mom's funeral, even though she had committed suicide after being betrayed by him. The harsh reality is that Mom left us without revealing the truth. Where's Mom? Asked 5-year-old Brian, gripping my hand tightly. The portrait of Mom showed her smiling warmly, but I knew how much she had suffered because of Dad. I'll never forgive him. To let go of Mom's regrets, I, at 10 years old, clenched my teeth and took a stand. Fast forward 10 years, and I've slowly cornered them into a living hell. I'm Mia, a 20-year-old nurse, living with my grandparents and 15-year-old Brian. We're a family of 4. When I was 10, Mom passed away, and Dad quickly remarried, abandoning us. The remarriage happened so fast it seemed planned while Mom was still alive. Thankfully, my maternal grandparents took Brian and me in, showering us with love and care. Even as a child, I felt grateful and guilty seeing my elderly grandparents work hard for us, and I wanted to start working to ease their burden. Maybe that's why people always said I acted mature for my age. I have a painful past that I can't forget and nightmares that still haunt me. Back when I was 10, my parents fought almost every night, filling me with anxiety about what would happen to our family. One day, I woke up to the sound of their arguing. Peeking through a slightly open door, I saw Mom tearfully pleading with Dad. You're going to see her again, aren't you? You have 2 kids, you know. Please think about the children. Enough. I'm tired of your ugly face, Dad retorted cruelly. I don't even want the kids. I'm leaving you for Nancy. Just get out. Mom, despite the harsh words, glared at Dad and retorted, if that's how you feel, fine. But you'll pay alimony and child support, and I'll take this house as part of the property division. Hearing this, Dad raised his arm to hit Mom, and I couldn't help but scream, stop. Dad looked at me, surprised, his eyes wide open, bloodshot, and terrifying. Gathering my courage, I stood in front of Mom, arms spread to protect her. I hate you, Dad. With a click of his tongue, Dad slammed the front door shut and left. Brian, startled by the yelling, had woken up and was crying. Mom hugged Brian and me, breaking down in tears but whispering in my ear, "As long as I have you two, that's all I need. I'll keep fighting, even if we divorce." But 3 days later, Mom was gone. She committed suicide by jumping from her fifth-floor condo in the middle of the night. I woke up to the sound of loud sirens from ambulances and police cars, and Mom, who was supposed to be sleeping next to me, was gone. I had a bad feeling. Mom's handwritten note on the table said, "I can't leave," and it was determined that she had committed suicide. On the day of the funeral, I stroked Mom's beautifully made-up cheek as she lay in the coffin, but there was no way she would wake up, and I couldn't stop the tears from rolling down her cheek. "Ma, why won't Mom wake up?" I took little Brian's hand and left him in the care of our grandparent, who was crying loudly. As I walked over to sit next to Dad, I heard an incredulous murmur. "This makes me feel lighter," Dad indeed said, even though it was during the funeral Mom who committed suicide after being betrayed by him. Why would he say something like that at a time like this? The photo of Mom on the memorial table showed her warm smile, but the person who pushed her to the edge was Dad. I couldn't believe that Mom, who was supposed to be strong for Brian and me, left us by taking her own life. Maybe it was my fault for saying I hated Dad. Maybe I should have helped Mom more, even though I was young and struggling. Dad had this smug grin on his face. Something's not right. There must be some hidden truth to all of this. That's what I felt even at the age of 10. 2 months after Mom passed away, Dad introduced us to a young woman. "Meet your new mom. Her name is Nancy. Be nice." The woman stared at Brian and me with cold eyes. Mom had just passed away, and now this? Was this the plan all along? I remember Mom saying during a fight with Dad, "You're going to see her, aren't you? This woman must be that Nancy." I looked at Nancy, bewildered. Living with her is going to be a nightmare. Even with those thoughts, I put on my best fake smile and greeted her innocently. "I'm glad to have a kind-looking Nancy as our new mom. But you won't be living with us. You two are going to Grandpa's house." At that moment, Dad chose his affair partner Nancy and easily abandoned Brian and me. Still, I pretended to feel nothing and responded to Dad, "Is it because Grandpa and Granny look so sad?" "I understand, but I miss not seeing you, Dad." When I said something I didn't mean, both Dad and Nancy smirked. "Enjoy your laughter while you can," I thought, screaming silently in my heart. Mom must have committed suicide because of Nancy's appearance. I won't let this go, Mom. Watch me. At 10 years old, I decided to take action to help my mom find peace. But back then, I was just a kid in elementary school. I racked my brain, wondering what a child could do, what I should do first. While packing to move to my grandparents' house, I also searched through Mom's belongings and Dad's study. I had a feeling that Mom's stuff might get thrown out now that there was a new woman in Dad's life. I found something astonishing but didn't know what to do with it at that time, so I quietly tucked it into my bag. We started living with our grandparents, which must have been tough for them at their age. Grandpa took a job as a security guard, and Granny started working part-time at a supermarket checkout. I did my best to help with chores and take care of my brother Brian, but I was limited in what I could do because of school. Seeing my grandparents struggle financially, I remembered Mom saying she would get alimony and child support from Dad when they fought before she passed away. If we had that money, it would make life a bit easier for my grandparents. "Hey Granny, is Dad paying child support?" I asked. "Kids shouldn't worry about such things," Granny tried to be vague, not wanting to burden me. But when I pressed her, I found out Dad hadn't given us anything. My grandparents thought they had caused Dad trouble by Mom's suicide, so they didn't charge him anything. Even so, dumping his kids and pretending not to know is just awful. That's unforgivable. I broke open my piggy bank, gathered the coins, and took Brian's hand to board a bus to Dad's office. Once we arrived, we sat down in front of the entrance and started crying. Brian was genuinely scared and crying, but I was faking it. People who looked like Dad's coworkers gathered around and asked what was wrong. "We came to see Dad. We don't have money, so we don't even have food." The crowd looked shocked, but the most shocked was Dad. "Why are you two here?" After scrutinizing us, he heard from his coworkers what I had said and started sweating profusely. Fine, I'll give you money. Now go home." "Hey Dad, what's child support? Is it just $10? Dad, who tried to send us away with just a $10 bill, was met with cold stares from the crowd. "No, it's $500. I just forgot to pay Grandpa, so it's $500 for both of us." That's too little. Whispers like raising two kids and $500 these days started circulating. It's $1,000 for both of you. I'll send it now. Go home. Thanks, Dad. If you forget the child support again, we'll come to your office. From then on, Grandpa received child support every month. Dad, however, became the subject of cold stares at work for abandoning his kids and remarrying the younger woman, and eventually quit his job. He found another job, but it paid less than the previous one. Every time he fell behind on child support, I'd show up at his office, forcing him to change jobs multiple times, each time with a lower salary. The bad rumors about Dad didn't stop at the office. I also took Brian to the homes of Dad's friends and relatives and pretended to cry, saying, "We miss Dad. He never visits." Thus, their reputations worsened and both Dad and his new wife Nancy became socially isolated. But I wasn't done. I frequently took Brian to visit Dad and Nancy's house for a specific reason. "What are you two doing here?" "We miss Dad." Brian hugged Dad, who looked genuinely happy, and let us in. Nancy glared at us, but I pretended not to notice and kept smiling. As soon as I entered the living room, I looked around and acted excited. Mom used to always be here when we were kids. We were all so close. Ah, the cup Nancy's using, that was Mom's favorite. Nancy put the cup down with a disgusted look and never used it again. We started bringing gifts for Father's Day, birthdays, and Valentine's Day. As we visited Dad regularly, the tension between him and Nancy escalated, and we could sometimes hear them arguing. That was my goal. Once, Nancy shoved me so hard I scraped my knee. I exaggeratedly cried out, "Dad, help," which led to another big fight. Time passed, and I turned 18 and graduated high school. We had received the child support Mom mentioned, but the $20,000 in alimony from the divorce was still pending. So I decided to make sure Dad kept his promise to Mom by getting that money in another way. Thanks to Dad, I graduated high school. Here's a thank you gift. Congrats on graduating. What's this? It's a picture frame with a photo of Dad and me smiling. The photo was taken by Brian just the other day. I'm touched. I'll put it right here. With that, Dad placed the photo frame next to the living room TV. Actually, Dad, I have a favor to ask. I told him that I wanted to go to nursing school after high school and needed $20,000 for it. I want to become a nurse. I think it would be helpful when it's time to take care of our family. I was thinking of our grandparents. But Dad seemed to assume I'd be taking care of him in his old age. He transferred $20,000 from his savings to my bank card, and I was able to cover my tuition and become a nurse 2 years later. I later found out that divorce settlements and tuition are treated differently, but at the time, I was just happy Dad paid. Now, I'm 20 years old, and it's been 10 years since Mom passed away. Brian and I visited Mom's grave and paid our respects. Mom, it's been a long wait, but the day to let go of your regrets has finally come. Watch over us, I said. Brian, standing next to me, nodded in agreement. He's grown so much, even surpassing my height. He's become strong and athletic. Actually, I've confided everything to Brian, and he's agreed to help me with what I'm about to do. We arrived at Dad's house, where we had spent many years. Dad greeted us warmly, but we were emotionless. Dad chatted away even though we hadn't asked him anything. Actually, I divorced Nancy after all the fights, but I have you guys. Let's live together in this house again, Dad said. Did he really think we'd be happy about this? But I knew about Dad's divorce because I orchestrated it. I've been waiting for this moment. Who are you, Mia? What are you talking about? Dad asked, confused. You took away our precious Mom's life. I've never considered you my dad. For the past 10 years, I've been patient just to let go of Mom's regrets, I said. Dad never expected this attitude from me. His face turned pale, and his lips trembled. Your mom committed suicide. Are you trying to say it's my fault? I think there was also a suicide note that said, I can't leave, huh? Dad stammered. This is part of that letter. I pulled out a letter that I had found in Dad's study when I was a kid and had kept tucked away ever since. This was a letter Mom wrote to Dad during the time they were fighting over his affair. I get that your feelings have shifted to Nancy. If you agree to pay the $20,000 settlement and $1,000 monthly child support in the divorce, then let's divorce. Please let me and Brian leave with me. If I don't have those kids. The letter cut off here and was missing the next part. It probably said, I can't go on living, didn't it? When did you? I couldn't find it no matter how much I looked after it went missing. Did Maya hide it? Dad said, looking bewildered. There's no way Mom would leave us and commit suicide. I've always thought that. At that time, I was convinced when I saw this. It was your doing, I said. Dad, who was at a loss for words, suddenly burst out into a disgusting smile. Even if the will was a fake, isn't it true that Mom committed suicide? Still trying to deceive us. I know what you did, Dad. What, that I killed Mom? There's no evidence anywhere, right? Dad sneered. That's what proves it. I pointed to a picture frame next to the TV. It had a hidden camera and it sent data to my mobile phone. I took out my phone and played a video. It showed Dad and Nancy in a heated argument before they broke up. In their conversation, they exposed everything. I pushed my wife off the condo to be with you, and I even helped by grabbing her leg, Dad said. Nancy also fearlessly accused Dad. You liar, you said we wouldn't have to pay any settlement or child support if she was gone. Mia, what are you doing? Hand it over, Dad demanded, his face red and eyes narrowed as he approached me. Stop, get your filthy hands off me. Brian, now strong and sturdy, twisted Dad's arm. Ouch, let go, it hurts. I'll do anything, just forgive me. Christopher, you're a disgrace to this family. Leave, you're not wanted here. Those harsh words came from my dad at my brother Alex's wedding in front of a room full of people. Alex didn't stand up for me. I was about to leave, boiling with anger, when a wedding staff member approached me, asking for help in a moment of crisis. This turned out to be the moment when my dad finally realized who I really was, and he got quite a surprise. My name is Christopher, and I'm one of two brothers. Our dad, a lawyer, was always tougher on me than on Alex. Growing up, we had no free time between lessons and studying. Even playing with friends wasn't allowed. I worked hard to live up to Dad's expectations and to catch up to my brother Alex, who I deeply admired. But no matter how hard I tried, I always felt inferior to Alex and a disappointment to my dad. The first significant event in my life was taking the entrance exam for a prestigious private school. Knowing it was a long shot, I still tried to get in because Dad wanted it. The result was inevitable. I failed. After that, Dad pretty much ignored me, only speaking to Alex and my mom. So, I ended up going to a local public high school. For those 3 years, I constantly felt stressed. Dad continued to ignore me, and so did Alex, which was heartbreaking. My only solace was my mom. She continued to treat me the same way as always. Right after high school, I left home without saying a word to Dad or Alex. I'd only left a note for my mom. Desperate to leave, I found a job where I could also live in. Luckily, I found a job opening at a hotel. I applied right away and got the job. Ever since I started working, I've been living a fulfilling life. It wasn't stifling like it was at home. I got to focus on what I needed to do. Christopher, another mistake. How many times do I have to tell you? Michael, the hotel manager, was really tough on me. As a high school graduate, I didn't know anything about the real world and was always getting scolded. Still, I worked hard every day, but it was a different kind of tough from Dad. Michael actually praised me when I did well, which motivated me to do better. Something memorable happened at the start of the new year. New Year's is the busiest time for the hotel. After completing all the required training, I was finally able to work on my own. That year, the hotel seemed more crowded than usual, especially during dinner time when guests either gathered in a big room to eat or had meals delivered to their rooms. It was insanely hectic. I was still a rookie and knew I was causing the hotel some trouble, but I gave it my all. Then a minor event happened on New Year's Day. A coworker got the flu, leaving us short-staffed. I worked my tail off, probably putting in twice the hours mandated by state labor laws. Just when you'd think it couldn't get worse, it did. The kitchen sink's pipe broke right during dinner time, and of course, it's New Year's Day, so no plumber was coming. We were stuck. The mood of our manager, Michael, kept getting worse. I took a bold step and said, Michael, can I try fixing the plumbing? I'll sort it out. Michael and the others looked puzzled, but he had no choice. With a hopeful tone, he asked, Christopher, can you do it? I got to work on the plumbing. Actually, I had gone to a science-focused high school after failing to get into the private one. There, I gained specialized knowledge in engineering and hands-on experience. Half an hour later, I had somehow managed to fix the pipe. Michael, it's fixed, I announced. Michael rushed over and turned the faucet. Water flowed out with force. Everyone in the room smiled. Great job, Christopher. You're my pride and joy. Being praised by Michael felt amazing. We managed to get through New Year's Day at our hotel. I'll never forget the fulfillment I felt that day. It's fair to say it has shaped who I am today. 15 years have passed since then, and I have fully adapted to this job. One day, I got a letter from Mom after a long time. It turns out Alex is getting married. I keep in touch with Mom a few times a year, but haven't been in contact with Dad or Alex. The letter asked for me to attend Alex's wedding. Why should I go? That was the feeling bubbling up inside me. So, I wrote back to Mom saying I couldn't attend. Yet a letter from her came right back, begging me to somehow make it. I reluctantly agreed to go. The location was a top-notch luxury hotel. Alex's bride is a young woman from a prestigious company, and the guest list outnumbered those at my work's New Year celebration. It was quite lavish. I thought it was typical of Alex and Dad's style. Their meeting was probably arranged at a party by Dad or was some kind of political marriage. On the day of the wedding, I wore a suit I'd had for a few years and headed to the venue. I gave my name at the reception and was guided to the waiting room. There were already quite a few people there, all looking like high society folks. It must be Alex's bride, the woman with long, beautiful hair in the back. With no one to talk to, I was people watching when I locked eyes with two men I recognized. Their faces were clearly unhappy. Dad and Alex walked up to me. "Why are you here?" I heard Dad's deep voice. It had been years since I'd heard his voice. "Is it so wrong to celebrate Alex's wedding?" "Oh, by the way, congrats, Alex," I said. Alex made a conflicted face. He probably couldn't openly appreciate my congratulations in front of Dad. "What have you been up to all these years?" "No doubt some worthless job." "Christopher, you shouldn't be here," Dad said. As Dad spoke, Mom rushed over to us. "Come on, Christopher is here to celebrate. No need to be so harsh." Mom was desperate to persuade Dad, but her voice was drowned out. "Enough, Mom. Christopher, let me make this clear. You're a disgrace. I don't want you ruining Alex's celebration. Get out." Even I felt the surge of anger. I hadn't wanted to come to Alex's wedding in the first place, and yet I was treated like this. That's why I didn't want to come. "Fine, I'm leaving." "Okay, Mom. This is why I didn't want to be here, to see this terrible Dad," I said and turned my back to exit the waiting room. I picked up my belongings and was about to step outside when I heard someone call out, "Please wait." A wedding staff member from the hotel was rushing over. "What's up?" It seems we have an unexpected guest for today's wedding. We're short on seats and food." Everyone in the waiting room looked worried. Emily the planner, the parents-in-law, and the staff. "I see. Is that what's going on?" Emily couldn't handle it alone, and they were asking for my help. But what did this have to do with me? Reflecting on past actions, I thought they deserved it. All my grievances against Dad and Alex were bubbling up, but then memories from the past filled my mind. Times when Alex and I used to play. Alex always made time to play with me during study breaks. If I just walked away, I would be no different from Dad. I turned back to the wedding staff. "Can you take me to Emily?" The staff member's face relaxed. I quickly followed them back into the waiting room. I returned to the very place I was kicked out of. In the center of the room, Emily, my dad, and the bride's father all wore worried expressions. As I got closer, my eyes met Dad's. "Why has Christopher returned?" "Leave." Dad approached me with a furious look, but Emily got to me first. "General manager, please help us," she said. Dad's eyes widened in shock. "You see, I'm now the general manager for all the hotels that my current company manages. When I first joined, we had just started expanding. Now we have hotels and wedding venues all over the country. And this hotel we're in right now, it's one of the hotels I oversee. I think I can handle this." I calmly explained the situation. "Dad, I'm busy right now. We'll talk later." Saying this, I turned back to Emily. "Relax, Emily. Get the seats and everything else ready. I'll take care of the food." The stress faded from Emily's face. "Understood. I'll leave the food to the general manager and handle the rest." With that, Emily rushed off. "All right, it's my turn now." Everyone in the waiting room was watching me. I left the room and headed to my friend, Chef Jackson. This hotel has a high-end restaurant, and Jackson, the chef, is a good friend of mine. "Hey, you in?" I called out. After some rustling, Jackson appeared. "Christopher, what brings you here?" "Work. I'm here as a guest today. My brother's wedding is happening here, but we're one meal short. Can you help?" "Sure thing. I'll whip something up with my culinary skills." Much appreciated. I owe you dinner. Looking forward to it. I returned to the waiting room after taking care of a few things. The guests had already moved to the ceremony area. Only my parents and the bride's parents were left. The issue is resolved. We've got an extra meal coming, I announced. Upon hearing this, my mom and the bride's parents looked relieved. My dad looked conflicted. Quite the proud man he is. Christopher, thank you so much. Because of you, the celebration can go on successfully. It's all in a day's work as a general manager. And with that, we all entered the ceremony hall. The lights dimmed, and the groom and bride entered. Alex looked incredibly handsome, and his bride was stunning. The ceremony proceeded, and then it was mealtime. I confirmed that everyone was served and breathed a sigh of relief. The ceremony concluded successfully. The faces of the groom and bride were filled with happiness. After the ceremony, we had a little talk with Alex's family and the bride's family. The topic was gratitude toward me, especially from the bride's family. I was thanked profusely. These moments are why I love my job. Christopher, thank you so much. We had the best day ever, all thanks to you. No worries. Wishing you all the happiness in the world. Thank you so much. I looked at Dad and Alex, both of them wearing complicated expressions. Mom walked over to me. Christopher, you did wonderfully. Thank you. Dad and Alex want to speak to you. I looked back at Dad and Alex. Alex spoke first. Christopher, you saved us. Thank you and sorry for everything up to now. As long as I could help, Alex, it's all good, I replied. Then Dad lowered his head without saying a word. He seemed to have nothing to say, and that was fine with me. After all, I never became like Dad. Just then, my cell phone buzzed in my pocket. It was the manager from a hotel in the next town over. More work, but hey, I enjoy it, so no complaints. All right, I'm off. Got work to do. You two take care. I probably won't see Alex or Dad again, I thought as I left the room without looking back and headed to work. 3 days after Alex's wedding, I was enjoying a rare day off, sitting on the sofa, sipping warm coffee. That was my happy time. Suddenly, the doorbell rang. Who could it be? I wondered as I went to the door. Alex was there. Surprised, I opened the door. Alex, what brings you here? Sorry, I got your address from Mom. Wanted to talk to you. Christopher, he wants to talk to me. Maybe he came to say thanks again. Well, you want to come in. Pardon the mess. If it's okay with you, Christopher, I'd like that. Alex gave a forced smile. I invited him in and served him coffee. Thank you. Smells good. Alex took a slow sip of his coffee. Seems like we both enjoy coffee. So what did you want to talk about, Alex? Alex put down his coffee cup and looked me straight in the eye. The next moment, he apologized. I'm really sorry for everything. I was puzzled. He came all this way to say that. A phone call would have sufficed. Hey, it's all right, Alex. Alex looked up. Actually, I came today because I want to share some things with you, Christopher. If you don't mind, I'd like you to hear my grievances. Grievances? I was left speechless. Alex began to speak slowly. You might think I'm the older brother who can do anything, but I envy you, Christopher. You're free from Dad's pressures, living your own life away from our parents. I couldn't say a word. Alex felt that way. I had no idea. Silence filled the room for a moment. I felt somewhat guilty. After all, I had unintentionally shifted all of Dad's expectations onto Alex. Choosing my words carefully, I spoke. Alex, I'm sorry. I never considered that you were struggling too. My brother smiled weakly. That's just it. It's not your fault, Christopher. I was the weak one. Hearing that, I finally found my words. Alex, I think you've been through struggles I can't even imagine. I truly admire that. But I also want you to know about me. Taking a deep breath, I paused to collect my thoughts. Alex listened intently, not saying anything. Breaking away from our parents and becoming independent wasn't easy either. The beginning was really tough. Yeah, it's true. We both have our share of hardships, Alex responded. It seemed Alex had more to say. I don't consider myself wise enough to convince Alex, nor do I know the words to do so, I thought. So, I said what I honestly felt to my esteemed brother. To be honest, I think you should do what you really want to do, Alex, without worrying about Dad. After pondering my words, Alex stood up, a relieved look on his face. You're right, Christopher. You've helped clear up my inner turmoil. Thank you. No, thank you, Alex, for coming over. I escorted Alex to the door. "I'll come by for coffee again," he said and left, a natural smile on his face. A month later, a letter arrived from Alex. He had been a lawyer to meet Dad's expectations but decided to quit and start training as a glass craftsman. Turns out he met his girlfriend at a glass workshop he had been attending as a hobby. "I'm sorry, Alex, for ever doubting you." As expected of Alex, he's been disowned by Dad. But Alex's wife is supportive and he's full of motivation. Dad remains the same, but I know Alex will pull through. Since then, our family started interacting more. There really is something special about the bond between siblings. As I was lost in thought, my mobile phone's alarm went off. Whoa, it's already this time. I have to leave the house today. Another day awaits on the path I chose and the job I chose. I attended the wedding of a junior colleague from work, only to be humiliated by the bride. She insulted me, saying that people with low education and no money should cut ties with my husband. The groom, my colleague, joined her in mocking me. That was the last straw. I decided then and there to cut them out of my life. From that moment, I resolved to make them regret ever judging people solely on their education. My name is Gwyn, and I'm 32 years old. I was raised in an average family, neither rich nor poor, the only son of working parents. What sets me apart is that while my classmates were planning for high school, I was frantically searching for a job. Both my parents are college graduates, but I was eager to start working as soon as possible. At first, they were confused, but eventually, they supported me, saying it was my life to live as I saw fit. I first worked as a factory laborer in my hometown, then switched jobs to become a painting contractor site supervisor. Now, I've been employed at a publicly traded major machinery manufacturer for 7 years. I'm a service department manager, visiting clients to handle machinery installation, repairs, and maintenance. Today, I have another round of repairs and maintenance visits planned. As I drive toward the freeway in the company car, my work cell phone rings. Seeing the company name displayed, my mood sinks a little. Not again. I pull over and call back immediately, only to find out it's another complaint from a client. I apologize and promise to be there right away. It's going to be a long day. After 7:00 p.m., I return to the branch office and find Theodore from my service department already back, chatting happily with a colleague from sales. "I'm back," I announce. Noticing me, Theodore quickly heads back to his seat and starts working on his computer. Each branch office in various regions is staffed by a small team and overseen by an area manager. In this branch, it's just Theodore, who is 2 years younger than me, and myself in the service department. "Hey, Theodore, got a minute?" I ask. "What is it?" he responds irritably. "Got a complaint from one of your clients this morning. I went and fixed it myself, but we're both going tomorrow to apologize." "Why did you leave it unattended for 2 days?" "I had plans both days. The CEO over there is always bossing me around. Maybe they should rethink how they treat me," he replies with excuses and complaints about the client. "I'm reporting this to the area manager. I had to step in and fix a client's issue, so of course I have to report it," I say firmly. Theodore, without any remorse, snorts and says, "So you're ratting on me again just because you're jealous of my education. You exaggerated things in your reports." He thinks I, a college dropout, am jealous of him because he graduated from a prestigious university. Theodore used to be a polite, humble, and adorable junior, but the moment he found out I was a dropout, his attitude changed entirely. I wouldn't mind if he did his job correctly, but there are too many complaints from his clients, and it's a headache. The next day, we both go to the client to apologize. "What are you doing here now? Your job is to fix this," the president of the client company says aggressively. It's not uncommon for people in industrial settings to be harsh. I'm used to it, but Theodore, with no field experience, stands there saying nothing. After calming the angry client and discussing future improvements, Theodore finally mutters a soft, "I'm sorry." I thought he'd be feeling down on the ride back, but he remains quiet. I attended the wedding of a junior colleague from work, only to be humiliated by the bride. She insulted me, saying that people with low education and no money should cut ties with my husband. The groom, my colleague, joined her in mocking me. That was the last straw. I decided then and there to cut them out of my life. From that moment, I resolved to make them regret ever judging people solely on their education. My name is Gwyn, and I'm 32 years old. I was raised in an average family, neither rich nor poor, the only son of working parents. What sets me apart is that while my classmates were planning for high school, I was frantically searching for a job. Both my parents are college graduates, but I was eager to start working as soon as possible. At first, they were confused, but eventually they supported me, saying it was my life to live as I saw fit. I first worked as a factory laborer in my hometown, then switched jobs to become a painting contractor site supervisor. Now, I've been employed at a publicly traded major machinery manufacturer for 7 years. I'm a service department manager, visiting clients to handle machinery installation, repairs, and maintenance. Today, I have another round of repairs and maintenance visits planned. As I drive toward the freeway in the company car, my work cell phone rings. Seeing the company name displayed, my mood sinks a little. Not again. I pull over and call back immediately, only to find out it's another complaint from a client. I apologize and promise to be there right away. It's going to be a long day. After 7:00 p.m., I return to the branch office and find Theodore from my service department already back, chatting happily with a colleague from sales. I'm back, I announce. Noticing me, Theodore quickly heads back to his seat and starts working on his computer. Each branch office in various regions is staffed by a small team and overseen by an area manager. In this branch, it's just Theodore, who is 2 years younger than me, and myself in the service department. Hey Theodore, got a minute? I ask. What is it? He responds irritably. Got a complaint from one of your clients this morning. I went and fixed it myself, but we're both going tomorrow to apologize. Why did you leave it unattended for 2 days? I had plans both days. The CEO over there is always bossing me around. Maybe they should rethink how they treat me, he replies with excuses and complaints about the client. I'm reporting this to the area manager. I had to step in and fix a client's issue, so of course I have to report it, I say firmly. Theodore, without any remorse, snorts and says, So you're ratting on me again just because you're jealous of my education. You exaggerated things in your reports. He thinks I, a college dropout, am jealous of him because he graduated from a prestigious university. Theodore used to be a polite, humble, and adorable junior, but the moment he found out I was a dropout, his attitude changed entirely. I wouldn't mind if he did his job correctly, but there are too many complaints from his clients, and it's a headache. The next day, we both go to the client to apologize. What are you doing here now? Your job is to fix this, the president of the client company says aggressively. It's not uncommon for people in industrial settings to be harsh. I'm used to it, but Theodore, with no field experience, stands there saying nothing. After calming the angry client and discussing future improvements, Theodore finally mutters a soft, I'm sorry. I thought he'd be feeling down on the ride back, but I was wrong. Instead of showing any remorse, Theodore was back to bashing the client. That CEO pretty much advertises his lack of education with the way he talks, he sneered. It was embarrassing to witness. Who made a client that angry? Maybe you should reflect on your work, I said, but my words fell on deaf ears. You're just out of touch because you've worked in those environments, Theodore laughed mockingly. What are you talking about? I only took this job to gain some mechanical knowledge. I don't plan on sticking around. Typically, people like Theodore would spend 2 years in service and then move to sales, but he's been here for 3 years. Nobody's going to move a guy with so many complaints to a sales position. He genuinely believes the bad reports are all because of me being jealous. If that's the case, all the more reason to get good at your service job. Show some sincerity to the client, I suggested. Sincerity? With his attitude that bad, there's no sincerity to talk about, he retorted. Maybe it wouldn't bother me if he was on the same level as me professionally, but I couldn't bring myself to say another word to Theodore. One day, I was on a business trip to set up some machinery. The test run didn't go as planned due to some glitches, so I had to stay overnight to fix it. The next day, we had limited staff at the branch, so when a major task like this came up, other local branches would help out. As I was looking for a place to eat near the hotel, someone called out to me. Hey, what are you up to? Turning around, there stood Theodore, arm in arm with a woman. Oh hey Theodore, good evening, I greeted. The woman beside him offered a handshake, which I accepted. This is my girlfriend Selena. She's from around here, he introduced. I felt like I had seen her somewhere before, but I didn't dwell on it. Theodore invited me to dinner, and I accepted. After ordering, Theodore started to gloat. Actually, just got engaged. She graduated from the same college as me, and her family is quite wealthy locally. Definitely on a fast track to success. That explained the dinner invitation. He wanted to show off his fiancée. As for Selena, she barely acknowledged me, not making eye contact and offering only occasional nods to Theodore. Dinner ended with Theodore dominating the conversation. When it was time to go, he excused himself to go to the restroom, leaving me alone with Selena. She broke the silence. I've heard quite a bit about you from Theodore. Her eyes locked onto mine with a certain coldness. I could tell Theodore had been bad-mouthing me. You think your managerial role is a big deal just because you've been at the company a few years longer. Could you please stop blocking Theodore's career? Certainly, the position of manager is something anyone can achieve through years of service and performance evaluations. Our direct boss is the area manager. For Theodore, I'm just a senior colleague, which isn't incorrect. Deciding it was futile to argue, I let it go. Theodore soon returned, and we pretended like nothing happened. As I was leaving, I asked him about work for tomorrow, and he said he'd be helping out at this branch. Something felt off, but I didn't say anything because Selena was there. The next day, I went to troubleshoot a test run as planned, but Theodore never showed up. I felt uneasy, so I discreetly consulted the area manager and had him look into Theodore's business trip application. It turns out, on the day I met Theodore and his girlfriend, they were supposed to be on a business trip that involved an overnight stay. This was a clear false claim. The area manager asked to handle the rest, so I left it to them. Sometime later, the date for Theodore and his girlfriend's wedding was set. I wasn't invited and felt relieved, but a week before the ceremony, the area manager asked me to attend in their place. They were supposed to give the main speech but couldn't make it, so they asked me to do it. I initially declined but accepted when they insisted. On the wedding day, I arrived early and bumped into Theodore and his girlfriend on my way to the waiting room. They looked surprised to see me. You know, my elite friends and I all have degrees from prestigious universities and work in top-tier companies. I didn't think you, a dropout, would fit in, so we didn't invite you, Theodore scoffed. I was asked to speak on behalf of the area manager, who will be late. Once they arrive, I leave, I replied. The color drained from their faces. Are you trying to embarrass me by having a dropout give a speech? If the area manager can make it, there's no need for a speech. Leave now, Theodore commanded. Cut ties with my husband, you uneducated poor, his girlfriend chimed in. They laughed heartily and walked into the waiting room, leaving me stunned. A new emotion welled up in me and my whole body started trembling. If they want to sever ties then, so be it. I stayed under the radar and waited for my turn to speak. Finally, it was my turn. I took a deep breath and stepped up to the mic. Though Theodore and his girlfriend glared, urging me to leave, I started my speech. Congratulations on your wedding. If you thought I'd stick to the usual pleasantries, you're mistaken. Theodore isn't exactly commendable in his job, but this is a celebratory occasion, so I must use only the highest praises. Top-tier graduate Theodore, you were exceptional in accumulating customer complaints at work. Your unrepentant and arrogant behavior, always blaming our clients, really showcases your thick skin. I'm always impressed. Stop it now. She stood up beside a flustered Theodore and shouted, overtaken by rage. You were supposed to cut ties with Theodore. Quit bullying him. The room started buzzing, but I continued my speech unfazed. Our elite graduate Theodore is quite the trickster. He's been lying about business trips to go hang out with her and claiming expenses for it. That's pretty bold and clear embezzlement. Hey, cut it out. You're making this up. Theodore shouted, red-faced, and started coming toward me. She also stood up and screamed, What's your evidence for all of this? Are you insane? The room descended into chaos, prompting the MC to nervously ask me to stop. I thought maybe this was as far as it would go. At that moment, the door swung open with a bang. The ones who entered the now silent room were the area manager and the president of the client company. She went pale when she saw the president heading straight for the bride and groom's table. So, your lying about wanting to quit your job to marry me was a lie, the president said to Selena. It turns out she had been working as a hostess at a club. I recognized her because I was once told at the club that she was the one who was supposed to marry the president. I had contacted the area manager to bring the president after realizing her true identity in her dressed-up appearance. I lent you money to quit your job and pay off your debt. Then you disappeared and planned to marry someone else, the president said. Selena couldn't come up with any excuses when faced with the calm president. Even Theodore didn't know about her working in the hostess club. He stormed back to her and confronted her. What is going on? She snapped back. You act all elite, but you are a no-good criminal, even worse than a dropout. That dropout's just jealous of me. It's all lies, Theodore shouted. The area manager quietly stood in front of the shouting Theodore. We have evidence of your actions and will be reporting them to headquarters. You'll be suspended until a decision is made. Realizing the gravity of the situation, Theodore stood there, his face ashen. The president said to Selena, "We'll be speaking through lawyers from now on." The once defiant woman broke down in tears. The MC wisely suspended the ceremony and the guests were asked to leave. I left the scene with the area manager and the president. Rumor has it that Theodore and Selena had planned to get their marriage certificate after the ceremony, but now it's off. Both families are blaming each other and fighting over the wedding costs. Theodore was fired for misconduct and they are calculating the exact amount he embezzled for restitution. The only thing that stings a bit is that the area manager also received a pay cut for poor supervision of his subordinates. Theodore had timed his business trips to coincide with days when major tasks like machine installations were happening and the area manager had approved these trips. As for the woman, she is facing fraud charges from the CEO for her sham marriage and she'll likely be tied up in court for a while. Of course, I've cut ties with Theodore and haven't spoken to him since that day. As for me, I'm just going to continue living my life with my head held high. Hey, the soup for breakfast is bland. Why is it so watery? It's not good. No, it's not. Make it richer, will you? But the doctor said I should watch the salt. Who cares? I love rich flavors. The one who's always complaining about the food is my mother-in-law, or MIL for short. She constantly craves heavily seasoned food, but she's overweight and borderline diabetic, so her doctor warned her to cut back on salt. She doesn't seem to care and just adds extra seasoning to whatever I cook. I was stunned by the unreasonable amount of salt and pepper she added to the soup I'd carefully prepared, even though I used low-sodium salt and seasonings. It's apparently not enough for her. I keep thinking she's going to drop dead one of these days if she keeps this up. To be honest, I wouldn't be heartbroken if she did. Nil seems to live for giving me a hard time. All she does is complain and act spiteful toward me. I'm Alice, 29, working while also being a housewife. I've been married to my husband for 3 years, but we don't have any kids due to my infertility, and MIL never lets me forget it. You're worthless as a woman if you can't have children. You're defective. Wow, you should be grateful just to be kept in this house. You're right, I'm defective because we've tried so many times and I can't have kids. Talk about drawing a bad hand. Ha, how could you say such a thing? Well, because a woman who can't have kids is finished. You're right, Mom. My husband laughed and agreed that I'm defective. I want a baby so badly. I've been going to the obstetrician while working, but nothing's working. It's physically and emotionally draining, so I've decided to stop the treatment. It also costs a lot, making it tough to continue for years on end. My husband used to say that spending money on fertility treatments was a waste, yet he pressured me to get pregnant quickly. What's the use of pressuring me if it's not happening? I thought after stopping the treatments we could consider the idea of living happily ever after, just the two of us. But my mother-in-law hadn't given up on having a grandchild to taunt me. She even bought diapers and showed them off. Look, I bought diapers. Excuse me, you'll need them eventually. Aren't those a bit small for you to wear, Amaya? Haha, these are for a baby. Can't you see that? Well, I wouldn't know. I'm the defective, faulty woman who can't have children. Haha, that's enough. Angry, my mother-in-law stormed off to her room. Thank God, I thought, already exhausted from work and not in the mood to deal with her snide comments any longer. She must really have nothing better to do than to make my life miserable. We had moved in with my in-laws after my father-in-law passed away a year ago. My mother-in-law was devastated, and around the same time she was warned by her doctor about her risk of diabetes. That's why we moved in. My husband wanted to be there for his mom. But despite her diabetes, she's fine as long as she takes her medication and eats properly. There's nothing to worry about. Well, considering she neglects her meds and eats whatever she wants, her condition will probably get worse sooner or later. Even if that's the case, I really don't want to be the one to take care of her. I'm still working and super busy, taking care of in-laws in my 20s. No, thank you. The next day was my day off, so I was doing house chores. My mother-in-law, who usually just lounges around eating snacks on the sofa, suddenly stood up and walked into my room. I didn't want her in there, but my hands were full, so I just let it be. I cleaned your room for you. Haha. Oh, thank you, I said, sensing something fishy. I should switch rooms with my husband. You know, if you leave it such a messy room, you'll get bugs. Ha! But it suits you. Haha. Aha. Go on, enjoy your clean room. Sure, thanks. My mother-in-law seemed to think I was grateful, which made her behavior even more suspicious. I had a feeling she was up to no good. That night, I decided to sleep in my husband's room. He's been away on business since yesterday, so he won't know. Even if he finds out, I knew he wouldn't get mad. So, I made my choice. I work as a nurse with regular hours, so they have separate bedrooms. Part of it is that our relationship has cooled off, but mostly it's because I don't want to disturb him when I work night shifts. I waited until Manal went to her room and then went to my husband's room. All right, mother-in-law is in her room. Time for me to sleep too. And so, I slept there for 2 days. My mother-in-law seemed suspicious because I looked too cheerful. She started asking weird questions. Don't you feel any pain or anything? Huh? What do you mean? Oh, never mind. Oh, was there something you were suspecting? Avoiding eye contact, my mother-in-law ate her meal alone. I had the night shift that day, so I planned to relax at home before heading to work. Taking it easy isn't an option for me since my Amael never lifts a finger around the house. She loves bossing me around, all while lounging on the couch, snacking, and reading Japanese comics aimed at women. She's probably reading and scheming what she can do next to make her annoying and bratty daughter-in-law cry. I saw the cover of her comic. It was sloppily translated into English as Epic Mother and Daughter-in-Law Swamp Battle. I couldn't help but roll my eyes at her choice of reading. Eventually, my husband got back from his business trip, but it was already 10 p.m. I'm exhausted. I'm hopping in the bath. Sure, I'll heat it up for you. Have a beer in the meantime. Thanks, I will. Oh, wait, it's not safe to drink alcohol before a bath. Fine, I'll go for a non-alcoholic beer then. He reluctantly drank a non-alcoholic beer because I warned him about the risks of mixing booze and hot water. You'd think he'd know better. Even saunas have signs warning against entering if you're drunk. But no, common sense isn't so common for him or my mother-in-law. After that, my husband took his bath and started singing loudly. We live in a single-family home, but singing at this hour won't please the neighbors. La 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 la. Hey, you're too loud. Shut it. You're the one who's loud. I warned you quietly, so stop singing already. My Niall came into the bathroom area to chime in. Watkin is just trying to have a good time singing. What's the problem? You really don't know how to treat your husband, do you? Always so inconsiderate and full of complaints. Hey, I'm not the one constantly complaining, Niall. Haha, back talk, huh? You're definitely not cute. Not that you're a beauty to begin with. That's fine by me. I'm probably a knockout beauty in some other country. No worries. Haha. After that, my husband got out of the bath and started drinking. It was already 10:30 p.m., and I needed to leave for the hospital where I work. Even though it's nearby, there's a lot to do, so I need to leave early. Oh, by the way, I've been sleeping in your room. Would you mind sleeping in mine tonight? My clothes are everywhere. Sorry. Sure. Doesn't matter to me. All right, I'm off then. Take care. I told my husband quietly so Vanaya wouldn't hear. As I was about to grab my bag and leave, I heard my husband's loud groan. What? What the? Watkin was curled up on the floor, clutching his leg and moaning. He looked to be in a lot of pain. Vanaya's face went pale, and she started to panic. What's going on? Speak. He couldn't say a word. No matter what I asked, there was no response. I thought I needed to do something, but then noticed something strange. The floor was unusually slippery. I was wearing socks, but it was so slippery that I felt like I could fall. What the heck is this? Watkin. Mal, what on earth did you do? I didn't do anything. It's not my fault. Blaming my Mal right now wouldn't solve anything, so I immediately called an ambulance. My husband was taken straight to our hospital, and work was the last thing on my mind. He kept clutching his leg even after we arrived, visibly sweating in pain. You could tell it was serious. Ouch, it hurts so bad. Watkin, hang in there. Please help me. Thankfully, a doctor was able to examine him, and it seemed like he felt a bit relieved. His leg was indeed broken, just as we suspected. He probably twisted his ankle the moment he slipped on that slick floor. It was a fifth metatarsal fracture, so it all added up. His foot was visibly swollen. Typically, people fracture this bone by tripping or putting all their weight on it. Speaking from experience, I twisted my ankle falling downstairs years ago. I heard a loud snap, and the pain was unbearable. I was also diagnosed with a fifth metatarsal fracture. I was lost in music while walking down the stairs, so it was quite embarrassing. I even lied to my close friends about it. Since his fracture didn't require hospitalization, my husband could come home. I was scheduled for a night shift, but my nursing supervisor insisted that I should take the night off. It's not a life or death situation, but I guess she was genuinely concerned. I survived, but now I've got a fever. Well, you broke your leg. Of course you get a fever. But why was the floor so slippery? Why don't we ask Maniel about that? Haha, hey, what did you do to the floor in the room? Well, the floor was all slippery. That's why I slipped and fell. I could have seriously broken my leg. Well, that room is for my daughter-in-law, so I greased the floor. My mother-in-law confessed. I was hoping my daughter-in-law would slip, so I put a lot of grease on the floor. I never expected you to go in there and slip. Unbelievable. It turns out my mother-in-law intentionally greased the floor to make me fall. She had claimed to have cleaned the room, but her actual intention was to put me in harm's way. I was furious. If I had entered that room, I might have broken my leg. No, breaking a leg would be the least of my worries. Hitting my head could have been fatal. My MIL was practically a criminal for doing something this dangerous. You're despicable. You're not even family to me anymore. I got seriously hurt because of you. I'm going to the police. Wait a minute. I didn't directly cause any harm, did I? Your wife is the one to blame. What? She told you to enter her room, didn't she? So this is all her fault. Shut up. That's not the point. You're getting arrested. My husband was furiously dialing the police. My MIL tried to snatch the phone away but couldn't overpower him. Even with a broken leg, my husband was still stronger. He was desperately holding onto his phone, speaking to the police. I couldn't help but think that I'd rather be at work, maybe even at the hospital, than deal with this mess. Neighbors would eventually catch wind of this horrifying situation. Well, since she almost injured me too, maybe I should also consult the police. What? We don't know for sure, but she might be charged with attempted harm. Wait, no. I don't want to be taken to the police. Really? You knew the risks when you did this, or did you think you could just erase me from this world? Well, I did think it would be better if you just disappeared. Wow, you're the worst. Your mindset is criminal. Personally, I wish you'd just stay in jail forever. Let's get a divorce? What? I can't continue like this. If I stay in this house, you might actually erase me one day. I'm too scared to live with that. Plus, I can't stand your lack of morals anymore. Wait. Don't say we'll divorce over this. Over this? You looked down on me, called me defective. Do you even know how much that hurts? I can live without you just fine. No, I need you. I was counting on your income. I even got a new car contract. What? I finally got the Toyota Century I've always wanted from Japan. I don't care anymore. I managed to clean the slimy floor and hastily packed my belongings into a bag. I stuffed more into my carry-on, took off my wedding ring, and placed it on the table. While rummaging through a shelf full of dishes, I thought about bringing the divorce papers. Found it. The divorce papers you wrote before. What? Remember how you wrote that if I can't have a child within 2 years, we'd divorce? Thanks. I can't have children now, so let's divorce? You must feel relieved now. Wait, what about the loan for my century? Who cares? I left the house and headed straight to the hospital. The compassionate charge nurse didn't probe when I showed up. She seemed to sense I had my reasons. I'm a nurse, so I can support myself without relying on a husband. I wondered why I put up with being treated like a servant in that awful in-law family, enduring their snide comments. I started to feel like the whole situation was ridiculous, so I decided to focus solely on my job and stop dwelling on it. The next morning, I filed for divorce. He's now my ex-husband. Given the emotional pain he caused me, I consulted a lawyer about getting compensation. In the end, my ex-husband had to pay me, and I couldn't help but think, serves you right. Ever since the police got involved, it seems the neighbors have been giving my mother-in-law the cold shoulder because she blabbed about why my ex-husband broke his bone. Everyone thinks she's a terrible parent. Understandably, my ex-husband no longer wants anything to do with her and seems to have kicked her out. Though there is some kind of survivor's benefit program, it doesn't pay much. She's been crying that living alone is impossible. She loves to eat, and because of her, our grocery bills were outrageous. So living on just the survivor's benefit would mean a very modest lifestyle. As for my ex-husband, I don't care what happens to him anymore. He said something about taking out a car loan, but I have no idea what happened with that. I assumed he wouldn't be able to afford it on his salary. He took me for granted and thought I would contribute money too, which annoyed me so much. Even though he's not particularly wealthy, he's the type to buy a new car without thinking. Later, I started dating a doctor at the hospital, and 2 years after that, we got married and were blessed with a child, which felt like a miracle after all I'd been through. From now on, I'm committed to doing my best for my family. A few years ago, my husband passed away suddenly due to an illness, and now I live alone. I have 2 children, both married and living apart from me. My son has his own family overseas, so I rarely see him, and I don't get to see my daughter much since she got married. I occasionally call my children, but I've been somewhat worried about my daughter. She always sounds lifeless, and I wondered if she was being mistreated at her in-laws' place. Since getting married, my daughter has been living with her husband's parents. I've never been mistreated by my in-laws myself, but I have friends who have, so I am concerned. Hello, Sarah. Are you okay? I sent a package to you recently. Did you receive it? Thank you. Sorry for contacting you late. I've been quite busy. Well, as long as you got it. But Sarah, you sound like you're not doing well. Are you okay over there? Yes, I'm fine. Sorry for making you worry, Mom. Sarah's voice was somewhat faint, almost ghost-like. Come to think of it, I haven't seen her in a while, so I can't confirm her well-being. I became anxious, wondering if she's eating properly or getting enough sleep. As a parent, no matter how old you are, you worry about your children, even if they are married and have their own family. I think that doesn't change. My late mother worried about me until the very end, so I thought it was normal for me to be concerned. I worry about Sarah to the extent that it's not overprotective or intrusive, but I worry she'll be annoyed. Well, Sarah isn't the type to say such things, so I reached out to her only once in a while. One day, I was going about my regular chores and work just as usual. It was already 8 p.m., and I was thinking about having a cup of tea before heating up the bathtub. That's when the doorbell rang. I wondered who it could be at this hour, and when I opened the door, it was Sarah. She looked more worn out than the last time I saw her. Her hair was a mess, her cheeks were gaunt, and her wrist, visible from her sweater, had become very thin like withered branches. I panicked, wondering why Sarah had ended up like this. Sarah, what happened? Why are you here at this time, and what's with your look? Actually, I haven't been able to buy a single piece of clothing. What? Really? All the money I saved up from the time I was single and even my full earnings from my current part-time job gets taken away, so I can't buy clothes for myself. And even when I ask my husband, he won't buy them for me. I see, that's why you're wearing such a tattered sweater and coat. They're covered in lint with holes everywhere. Normally, a husband would feel bad seeing his wife dressed like this, but apparently her husband doesn't care. And what do you mean by all of your part-time pay is confiscated? After Sarah got married, she quit her full-time job and started teaching part-time at a tutoring school near her in-laws' place. Seizing her paycheck, that's crossing the line. Also, they told me to keep the budget for groceries under $35. What? That's ridiculous. If I were to go over 35, they threatened to hurt me. I overspent by $5 a day and got yelled at by my husband and mother-in-law. That's terrible. Mom, I have a favor to ask. I want to stay somewhere else tonight. Can you lend me $50 for a motel? I'm sure my husband will calm down by tomorrow, and I just want to stay somewhere else tonight. Honey, you don't need to stay at a motel. What a waste of money, and your face is burning red. You probably got a fever. Yeah, I caught a cold. Why don't you stay here for a while? I can take care of you. Really? Thank you. Sarah's face brightened up. I prepared some warm milk for Sarah and let her use my spare room. I had some pajamas that fit her, so I handed them to her and told her to change. She seemed really worn out from the cold and fell asleep almost immediately after taking some medicine. Well, it's a relief that it's nothing too serious, but why did it have to come down to this? Sarah said she would get in trouble if she didn't keep their monthly grocery expense under $35, but that's impossible. They're not farmers. They can't grow and get their own vegetables and fruits to keep their budget that low. It made me wonder if they had some sense of basic living expenses. With inflation, prices of goods have been rising, and there's no way 35 is enough for Sarah, her husband, and her in-laws. I trembled with rage thinking about their unreasonable demands and the fact that they're confiscating all of Sarah's part-time pay. The next morning, Sarah got up looking sluggish, but her fever seemed to have gone down a bit. I made her see a doctor just in case, but it turned out to be a common cold. I was relieved it wasn't anything serious. Well, at least it's just a cold, not some troublesome disease. Yeah, there's been a flu going around recently too. Why did they start confiscating your part-time pay? I asked, my concern deepening. My mother-in-law keeps insisting that she needs money, Sarah replied. At first, she said she didn't have enough funds for retirement, giving several reasons, but something feels off. Huge boxes are constantly being delivered to our house, and she doesn't show me what's inside. What? I'm starting to suspect that she's buying something suspicious. She told me it's for her retirement, but I think she's lying. That's concerning, I said. I too began to think that Sarah's mother-in-law, Sabrina, must be buying something sketchy. Sarah hadn't seen what was inside these frequently delivered packages, but she said they were definitely suspicious. They arrived in abundance from overseas, so I guess her part-time earnings were being spent on that. Taking Sarah's part-time wages to buy whatever she wanted was truly wicked. What in the world were her in-laws buying in such quantities anyway? I started to feel scared. Then one day, I decided to go out for some tea with my friend. Sarah had recovered from her cold, so she said she was just going to relax at home and read a book. After having tea with my friend, I decided to report my daughter's situation to the police. About 2 hours later, Sarah's in-laws showed up. Her husband was away on a business trip abroad, but the expressions on his parents' faces were demonic. Sabrina turned beet red while her father-in-law, Robert, glared at me. You're the one who reported us to the police, aren't you? Sabrina accused. Yes, that's correct. I'm sure Sarah must have secretly looked into the packages and told you about it, right, honey? Robert said. That's right. It must be because of this chick that the cops are on to us. No, my daughter said she didn't look inside. I can't believe that. I'm sure she's trying to set us up. What a wicked daughter-in-law, being nasty and disrespecting her in-laws. That's right. A daughter-in-law should value her in-laws, and yet this woman just ran out of the house and even ignored our calls. There's no point hiding here. But I had no idea what my husband would do to me if I didn't run away. What? You're blaming our son now? It's your fault for overspending on groceries. Stop with the excuses. That's right, shut up now. Just how many times do we have to tell you that we only have light meals to keep it healthy? So $35 for groceries should be enough. Light meals? Yes, exactly. Light meals are the best for us humans. Eating luxurious meals can lead to gout or lifestyle diseases, which is why our model is to have light and simple meals only. So $35 is indeed enough for groceries. Well, because of all that nonsense, my daughter has become as thin as a rail. Robert always insisted eating light meals was a shortcut to good health, but when Sarah first came home, she was clearly malnourished. Her shiny hair was now dry, so was her face, and her skin was peeling off. What's worse, she was so skinny that she looked like a skeleton. She might have gained a little weight now, but no one can possibly gain 20 pounds in a month no matter how hard they try. Sure, there might be some who can, but Sarah isn't a big eater, so she probably only gained about 5 pounds max. And yet she's wasting $35 like that. She's such an incompetent daughter-in-law. Have you ever taught her how to manage household expenses? This tells a lot about the way you raised her. Oh, look who's talking. What did you say? All that talk about light meals is just a lie, isn't it? You two have been secretly feasting on good food, haven't you? Ah, well. A friend of mine mentioned that she saw you guys shopping for expensive ingredients at the upscale supermarket, Whole Foods. That's. And apparently, you were also buying quality liquor. Were you hiding it to drink somewhere else? Well, they were clearly taken aback, looking rather flustered. Sweat was trickling down their faces, and they were huffing and puffing as they wiped it off. So what's your point? Reporting us to the police just because we secretly enjoyed good food with our daughter-in-law? Have you lost your mind, Kathy? Ha ha. Exactly. It's not a big deal, right? We also want to spoil ourselves once in a while. We've been eating simple and light meals for so long. Oh, is that so? But I suppose all this luxury is thanks to the money you've made through your sketchy business. What? Don't you guys sell Japanese pharmaceutical products on eBay? Ah, about that. It seems that it's against the site's policy for individuals to sell pharmaceutical products. I don't really use online flea markets much, so I wasn't aware, but isn't that against the pharmaceutical affairs law? Well, so I decided to report it. It seems you were selling stuff like dream diet pills. But how do you know? Oh, that friend of mine was almost sold your products. She's a bit chubby, and when she was walking down the street, she ran into you and got asked to try the dream diet pills and to buy them from your online store. Oh, in that case, my friend is indeed a bit chubby. She was offended that someone even more overweight would say something like that to her. I continued. Well, Sabrina, you were indeed quite large. So what? What do you mean by large? My body's glamorous, Sabrina shot back, indignant. Glamorous? Also, Robert, you've got a bit of a belly too. You must be eating and drinking some pretty good stuff using our daughter's part-time earnings, despite luxurious produce at the supermarket and profiting off your diet pills. It's all muscles, Robert protested. I've got a hard, tight six-pack, right, dear? Yes, that's right, Sabrina agreed. Robert is definitely not overweight, and I still turn heads because I have a nice body too. She snorted and bragged about being considered good-looking. Wearing a tight mini skirt even in the middle of winter, she didn't wear stockings, and I wondered if her bare legs got cold. At that moment, Sarah spoke up. Well, you use that glamorous body of yours to get guys, right? Ha ha. Ha! The other day, I went to the doctor because I had a cold. There was an OB/GYN next door, and I saw you going in with a young man. Ha ha. Hey, there's a reason for that. Do you mean in your 50s you've had a child with a young man, or did you catch a disease? Oh my, that's not it. Shut up, you. You got that far with some random guy. Are you pregnant or sick? Which is it? I'm sick. What the hell? No wonder I've been feeling off. It's your fault. I'm sorry. I was just with him for fun. It's not my fault the guy just wouldn't leave me. Ha, you seem to be having a great time. You guys even look like a sweet couple, holding hands and going into the hospital. And it was you who was all excited, talking about going to a restaurant and a Ferris wheel afterward. Ha ha. Shush, don't talk anymore. I cannot forgive you for using all my earnings and for eating well outside while reselling the contents of those packages and breaking the law. Terrible. And having an affair is awful too. Ha ha. Sabrina, everything's ruined because of you. Ha. Father-in-law, you were selling stuff out too. I know you guys were being sneaky, staying up at night. No, I was only running a business. I wasn't having an affair. I'm innocent. No, what are you talking about? You've been a criminal since the moment you violated the law. You're far from innocent. My daughter had grown tougher and took a firm stand against them. Sabrina was sobbing uncontrollably, and Robert kept yelling. It was a disaster. Even though we were in our house, they were so loud that our neighbors came out, and it turned into a spectacle. They yelled at me, saying they were embarrassed, but it wasn't my fault. For now, my daughter is planning on divorcing her husband. Given that she was abused, she'll probably sue him for emotional distress and seek compensation. That's right, I will seek compensation from my husband. Also, please return all my part-time earnings that you took. But I said give it back. Don't underestimate me. Did you think I was some slave who would just obey everything? I'm not afraid of you anymore. I don't care what happens. Just give it back. Why, yes, I'm sorry. I was wrong. I apologize. Our usually soft-spoken daughter raised her voice, causing them to hastily bow down in apology. It seemed as if we were bullying them, and I wished my daughter would stop yelling. But I guess it served them right. In the end, they were penalized for their crimes. Later, Sabrina and Robert got divorced. It turned out Sabrina had not only contracted a disease but was also pregnant in her 50s. Even I was taken aback by this. She had to pay alimony to Robert. Since then, Sabrina planned on starting over with her lover but got abandoned by him. Even when I heard this, she meant nothing to me, so I didn't care at all. My daughter also got divorced and received compensation from her ex-husband. My daughter didn't have children yet, so I thought it was good that she was able to divorce before having any. Rumors spread in our neighborhood that my daughter ran away after being mistreated by her husband. The rumor also reached his workplace, and from what I've heard, it became uncomfortable for him to stay there, so he resigned. I don't know what happened to him after that, but he's probably staying with his father, Robert. I am now living with my daughter, but we are not financially struggling. My daughter works as an online tutor, and I have been working from home for a while now, so we make a decent living. My daughter has been putting on some weight and getting healthier. Seeing this, I am truly relieved.